Call to order this pre-agenda meeting for the Siloam Springs Board of Directors, November 1st, 2023. Roll call.
Blair.
Here.
Smiley.
Here.
Wiles. Hunt.
Here.
Rissler.
Here.
Allen is here somewhere. Carroll.
Here.
And thank you, Renee. And with that, I will turn this over to our administrator, Alan.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I know Ken's out of town, but I'll get him updated when he gets back. Just wanted to start with the pre-agenda meeting. Talk about consent and regular meetings, resolution to setting the hearing. Chris, do you have anyone that wants to discuss that or give the board an update if they have anything on that? On B? And again, what I want staff to do is just be present, to be able to give you a really quick update in case you have any questions for the upcoming meeting.
Sorry, I was eating my M&Ms. So we're having to reset this hearing date because there was a typographical error on the resolution on the September 19th board meeting. We had set the hearing date for that day, so we have to correct that now. This could possibly be pulled from this agenda based on communications with the engineer, so we'll figure out more by the end of today, and we'll know if we have to pull it from this agenda later. We won't know until 5, so thanks.
Questions there? Thank you, Megan. On C, the resolution for ratifying, that is the resolutions. I just want to briefly discuss that tonight. I have some stuff that I have to put in for attorney review that I'll bring to the board. Hopefully I will have that to all of you by tomorrow or Friday, but we can still discuss just on some small changes on from recommendations from board members. So hopefully I'll have that, and again, if you have any questions, but hopefully I will have you something by tomorrow or Friday to review.
Something and if different from what's in the packet?
Yes, ma'am. Just on some corrections, but again, as you get those, we can discuss going forward. This is something that the board is not happy with. We can pull it again. I don't think the changes are that big, but again, that needs to be the pleasure of the board for review.
Mindy, if I could get you to pull your mic down. Thank you.
Okay, any questions there? Anything you want to talk about on that? But again, I apologize. Some changes came in, and again, I'll feel comfortable once we get that reviewed and going forward. I don't want to bring you something that hasn't been reviewed by attorneys, and then we have more questions. So, contracts and approval, budget amendment for the land purchase. D, Kevin will speak. This is something we've talked about before. That was actually tabled.
Thank you. Kevin Moore, City Engineer. This project is the next two items that you have on your agenda for next week. We have a budget amendment for $700,000 and then a land purchase, discretionary purchase authorization for $350,000. The $700,000 is already budgeted in next year's budget, so we're not asking for additional money. We're asking that money be moved up to allow us to spend it in November and December of this year. So staff was made aware of a development with a high traffic count coming in just to the east of Simon Sager Avenue. And so what we're looking to do is purchase a portion of tract D1 here, lining up with the existing private drive on the other side of the road. And then the city staff would construct that portion of the street as the current plan, and then just across into this development to the east, and then they would match that with their development. Here you can see kind of a exhibit of that proposed plan. Staff is currently working on the design for this. The survey has been completed, and staff is available for any questions.
Any idea when you'll start or when it'll get started?
I would anticipate probably the very end of November or early December. So we have already put out an advertisement for bids for the drainage pipe that we'll need on this project, and then we're planning to do the actual construction in-house. Thank you.
If I remember correctly, you said the 350 is part of the 700 when we talked
Yes.
before, is that correct?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Evan, you want to explain why those are separated? I think the board understands, if not.
Yes. So the first item is the budget amendment, moving the money into this year's budget. And then the second item is 350,000 of that 700,000 as a declaration allowing Administrator Gilbert to pursue purchase of this land. And then you will, of course, see the purchase itself as an item at one of the next board meetings.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Our next item is item F, the AECI volume commitment.
Yeah, we'd like to come to the board and ask that you approve the VCA agreement to purchase transformers for 2024.
Before you go on, I'm sorry, I need your name and your department before we go on,
I'm
so
sorry.
she has it in the record.
I knew you were about to get in trouble.
I'm Tommy Vaught, purchasing manager for the city.
Perfect, Tommy, thank you.
Right now, I know you're all aware of the surplus, the shortage on supplies of transformers. If we sign this agreement with VCA with ACI, we'll be able to get transformers next year in 2024 instead of the end of 2025, early 2026. Do what?
David, do you have a question?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Tommy, I just had a question.
Yes, sir.
The contract, nearly $6 million, we're not locked in that we have to spend that amount, is it?
No, it's not
It's-
locked in. We don't need those. We can do a written notice, give them 30 days or something like that, then we're
Well,
able to get out of
Only
that.
pay as we get them,
Yes,
right?
sir. We'll pay them as we get the transformers in. Any other
And
questions?
how many years do we estimate this would last?
We're hoping that it will, depends on the construction and progress and
Right.
everything. We may have to turn around and do it again in 2025.
That's what I was gonna say. Do we think this will last through 2025? Or, I looked at the at the list and I wasn't quite sure if it would go through that whole year.
Kind of depends on the market and just things go. It may not. We may have to come back and do it again at the end of 2024 for 2025.
Well, I was glad you got a second option to be able to compare that this was a favorable price
Yes, sir.
compared to the other company.
Yeah, 6 million versus 13 million.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
The only other plus I saw that was good is that it's not like these wear out by sitting on
No,
the shelf.
no, they'll last for,
That were 13 years old that from when we bought them, so,
they'll
yeah,
just plug and play.
that's a good plus.
Any other
Thanks
questions?
for all your research, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Tommy. Next item is item G, the contract for construction management at risk for Siloam Courts.
Good afternoon, Randall Clark, Senior Building Inspector. And I don't know how to get this in the right spot. You want to help me get this slide up here, IT? So this is for your approval next week for a contract for a construction general contractor for construction management for the courts alteration. And here is the floor plan of some of the alterations we're going to do. This was a 23 budgeted item, and we would like to proceed with this contract with them. Staff is available for any questions.
Questions, board? Okay, thank you, Randall. You guys are making it too easy on me tonight.
Spoke too soon.
Next on the agenda is the ordinances. Letter H, Third reading, amending City Municipal Code, Chapter 102 zoning, GI zone. Is there any questions there? Chris, who do you want to speak on that? Just to be available as we go through these. Okay. Any questions for H Board?
I do have a question. And you probably went over this the first time, and I'm sorry, I've slept since then. The amendments to the municipal code, are those related to some of the ones that were brought up at that public meeting?
For ordinance 2325, yes.
Okay.
But the 2323, which is the third reading, that was an internal discussion because of a project that came up. So.
And so I think my understanding was that we felt like some of those recommendations were good recommendations. And so we're looking into some of the others too. This is just sort of a first step with one of them, or?
Yeah, there's different issues going on right now in the planning world. And this was just something that had come up that we felt that was inconsistent with how the development patterns going along Highway 412, and we
Right.
just we went ahead and pushed that one forward first. But we're trying to clean the house generally with lots of updates right
No,
now.
and I know it doesn't happen overnight, but this looked familiar to me, and I thought this sounds like something that was a recommendation, and so I just thought I'd get a status update on how implementing some of those other recommendations were coming, since it seemed that the idea was that they were some good
Yeah.
things to maybe consider.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you. Yeah.
And Chris, you might be able to tell the board, we had a meeting about 2 weeks ago with a builder, and I think at that time, was it 5 different changes we were looking at? Am I remembering that right?
That's correct. We did look at some other options that are department level policy that we're able to address some of those in-house. We made some changes. Some of those actually go into effect today. We made some changes on how we deal with easements and how we deal with certain stuff that can be handled at a staff level policy, in order to expedite processes and help things go through. Some of the changes that we make can make things go through that could take 3 to 6 weeks. We can do it at a staff level and expedite those processes without changing any ordinance or any director level policy.
Perfect. And I think that's kind of what they were hoping, the builders were hoping for. So I know they appreciate it, and so I thank you.
Right, it was really positive with the town hall meeting, the meetings that we've had. This will expedite things quicker that we can do at the staff level and not bring to the board. And we think it's really going to expedite the process.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, moving on, we discussed J, ordinance 23-26, first reading, amending section 10221 municipal code, rezoning from G1 to 11, 2200 block of South Lincoln Street.
I think that's GI to I1.
I'm sorry, yes, I stand
Where-
corrected.
Put on your
GI.
glasses.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, where did I leave those things? I have to get farther away from it. Any questions there? And then ordinance K, 23-27, first reading, amending section 102-21 of City Municipal Code, rezoning from R2 to R3, 1000 block of Sherry Woodlock Drive.
I had a question on this one. It's actually Whitlock Parkway, not Drive. Right, Megan? Is that right?
Sorry.
And then we have it on the agenda to vote for it, even though the Planning Commission voted 6-0 to deny it. And I just thought years ago, if they denied it, it didn't come to us unless the applicant appealed it to the board. But maybe things have changed from years ago, and so I didn't know. Does it definitely come to us if the planning and zoning denies it?
Chris, Kevin, or Megan, Ben, it is my understanding in the past, this is, even though it's a 0-6 vote, we still bring it to the board. And again, that commission, is my understanding, is basically letting us know if something needs to proceed to the board. So in a 0-6 vote, we can report that and not bring it to the board, or we can bring it to you to, you may see something different than the planning commission did. That's the pleasure of the board.
Excuse me, when I was on the planning commission, it did, even a denial went to the board.
Okay. And that's the way it's always been. I don't know if the board wants to make a change, if we're allowed to make a change
Because-
on that. Chris, if you want to speak on that.
I can elaborate on that. Currently, the ordinance places planning commission's determination as advisory, even in a denial. Since it's an advisory, it's not a final opinion by the planning commission. Their only option is to currently forward that to the board with a recommendation of denial. We are aware that other cities do have options to make that denial at the planning commission level, and then it would be appealed, or has a potential for appeal to a board or a city council entity. However, in Siloam Springs, that's not an option as of right now because it's not codified.
Well, it happens so rarely for us to have planning deny something, so that's why. I just remembered long ago when I was on the board that they had to appeal it, but I never actually sat on the planning as Carol
Well,
did. And I
it
think-
is just a recommendation.
Yeah.
Then we make
Well,
our
that's what I thought, is
determination.
that they are an advisory group to us. So if they denied it, then, but then again, I do recall years ago that this board has even overruled the planning and zoning. When they've approved something, this board has actually, so.
I would like to hear from staff, like why it was denied and what their thoughts are.
I don't have my talking points, but I'll try.
That's fine. You can
Megan
lead.
Thomas, Planner 1. So basically, staff recommended denial of the request because the area consists primarily of medium to large estate size residential lots. And the request is to rezone to R3 in order for them to construct duplexes on the lot, which is not in line with the character of the neighborhood or the context of the neighborhood. The Blackberry Estate subdivision was just recently approved directly to the north of this lot, and those are large estate size. None of those lots are less than 1 acre. It's completely surrounded by lots that are not less than 1 acre. And then I believe it's to the east, you have medium-sized residential lots in that sub-land use map. So they're requesting to amend the future land use map in order to allow for the duplexes to go in there. It's not in line with the intent in the future land use. The entire area is calling for neighborhoods 1 there. So this could be considered spot zoning, what they're requesting. And it just doesn't meet the intent of the future land use. It doesn't meet the character or context of the neighborhood. And we have received opposition to it from the neighbors. And so
Yeah, to read
That's why.
that 3
You, Megan.
homeowners showed up and which is rare for people to show up at planning, but they did. And they had a good reason. I think Caddy Corner is a church, and as you said, across the street is single-family home. And as Mr. Chavez said, he wanted to be able to build triplex and fourplex because of the walking distance to JBU for
JBU.
students. And that's fine and dandy, but not in a place that right up the street, Mr. Ingles building 1 acre estate lots. So, and it's
And-
not very far from where this is located.
yeah, and it should be noted too that the neighbors who came to the meeting to speak on it are directly abutting the site. Their homes are directly abutting it. So that is why staff recommended denial. Thank you.
I thought it was one of the most obvious answers. I had only brought it up because I wanted to make sure I defer to the profession,
That's too long ago.
the experienced one.
Good. Everybody, questions answered? Anything else? Okay, moving on to L. Ordinance 23-28, first reading, amending section 102-21 of City Municipal Code, rezoning from A1 to C2, 3861 Highway 412 East. Any questions there? No questions. Moving on to M. Ordinance 23-29, first reading, amending section 102-21 of City Municipal Code, rezoning from R2 to H1 to C2 to H1 500 block of South Britt Street. Any questions, board? And then moving on to resolutions. Letter N, Resolution 63-23, directing complaint by filed with the Arkansas Public Service Commission to enforce electric service territory. Phil will come up and address that with you.
Yeah, Phil Stokes, Electric Director. We started looking at annexations, looking at our service territory, and we got to noticing that a lot of Carroll's customers were inside what we thought was our service territory. And so it was hard to find a defined service territory, so we contacted the Arkansas Public Service Commission and said, hey, what is the territory? We want to know where it's at. And so they gave us the description of what the territory is, and we took those coordinates and plugged it in, and it's exactly like it is today, but it was done back in 1939. Okay, it hasn't changed since 1939, and this agreement was signed by Carroll Electric and the city of Siloam Springs. And so we noticed there's a little over 200 customers that should be ours that Carroll is serving, and we have about 40 of their customers that we are serving outside this territory. And part of the customers that we're serving of Carroll's is along where a water line we had out east of town years ago that's no longer there. That's where we got water from. And Carroll at that time had no desire to serve that. They didn't have any lines in the area. And so really the ones that we have of theirs might be right on the ragged edge of the boundary, but very few are way outside of the service territory that we're serving. It's if it is, it's in a remote area they don't have lines to. So we talked to them and met with them several times, and their position is that the boundary never has really been established, and we should, if we want those customers, we should buy them out at 3.5 times what the annual revenue is for the customers. It's an Arkansas law that we do that, and we have done that with customers that was outside the service territory that we brought in. And so anyway, we've discussed with them and wouldn't get nowhere, so we hired a lawyer that's very familiar with these type of deals, and his name is Jason Carter, and he's representing us before the Corporation Commission. And so he looking through all the rules and everything, and he said, hey, there's one thing that we need to do, a hoop we have to jump through in order before we can file this complaint with the Corporation Commission, is we've got to get a resolution from the board that they approve of us filing a complaint with the Corporation Commission. And so Jason put together this resolution, and that's what you have before you. And that's basically what we're asking you all to do, is to approve this resolution that we are filing a complaint that they have overstepped their boundaries since 1939.
I think it's good that we finally do something about what our real territory is, because this has been an ongoing thing for many years, that we have some of theirs, they have some of ours, and what do we do? But I'm glad to see that. I don't know what the resolution will be when we do this, but hopefully it will say, these are yours, these are yours. Is that what the intent is?
Well, the intent is to take our customers back. That's where it says on the bottom of that resolution there, that we want our customers back.
They got a
Or
lot
will we
more than
lose
we
any?
do. They got a lot more of ours, I think.
That's my question, is will we lose some?
Well, possibly, yeah. But there's 3 subdivisions they have of ours, and so, you know, if you...
Which do you want to tell us which subdivisions it is?
I knew he was going to ask me that. I knew at one time. I know Meadowwood's one. I think Oak Crest is the other one. And then there's one more that's all, I can't remember. Y'all might help me out with that one.
I
But
think it's up in the north area as well.
So
so,
it's scattered, it's not just one?
no,
Okay.
no, there's in three defined pockets that they,
Well, we provide so much better service, I would think these customers would want to be with us.
well, and it's interesting, and I emailed Mr. Gilbert today about, I looked at the rates, and right now, our residential rate is right at 9% cheaper than Carroll's. And during the wintertime, it's 40% cheaper than for the all-electric rate. So, you know, if you took these customers back, they would be getting a rate decrease.
And yet we hear that they're paying so much less. That's what we hear, is that, oh, we're paying so much less than the city by having Carroll. And of course, my argument is, but you ain't ever gonna get the service you got with the city. Because when we have a major storm outage, I mean, some people are out for weeks, but not in the city. It's more like hours, so.
Right, Phil sent me an update today, and it is extremely lower. It's something I'll let the board know, but
Yeah.
I really haven't got to really.
So people that have been saying this are misinformed.
Well, in defense of Carroll, they had a rate increase this year. So
That helped.
They were people that were telling us that were probably looking at past bills.
And what you have to be careful is, on rates, they're somewhat deceptive because they have a minimum charge everybody pays. And theirs is 3 times what ours is, 2 times higher than ours. And then there's a power cost adjustment in there. And then there's, of course, the rate, the energy rate. And their energy rate is right at 9% higher than ours. But, I mean, things can change the other way, you know, but I just want you to know currently that's what it is today. I talked to them this morning, and that's what their rates are.
I appreciate your pursuing that. I know it's something that Philip Patterson had been butting his head up against for a while, and I know you had been involved in that as well, so thank you for pursuing it.
Phil, do you want to give a brief update on our November 20th meeting? We also have another issue that we have been addressing.
We have a customer group meeting with Grand River Dam Authority, excuse me, and we'll know at that time if they are going to have a rate increase for their customers. And so we don't know what it's going to be. We don't even know for sure they're going to have one, but they have done a rate study, and so they'll be presenting it at that time if they have one. And so, you know, if our rates go up, well then, of course, that reduces our profit margin, if you will, what we have with our customers, and so we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. But, you know, we just don't know. We put it in the budget, speculating it's a 5% rate increase, which I think is on the high side, but we just don't know.
That's why we have a utility commission, to study all those things.
Right, and Phil, the last thing I want to discuss, we have that meeting coming up with the attorney, where we're going to be meeting with, we have another issue with, I don't want to say a lawsuit, because we're trying to get a settlement, and I haven't been able to tell the board about it. Do you want to discuss that a little bit, or bring that back as we come closer?
Which one are you talking about there?
Oh, it's the one on November 20th at 2 o'clock.
Oh, that's with Carroll on this issue here.
Also with Carroll?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's when we're going to meet. They have agreed to meet with us the 20th at 2 o'clock, and so we're going to bring this before them and say, you know, here's our cards on the table. What's your next move? Because if you don't help us out here, we're going to file the complaint with the Corporation Commission, and then, you know, we'll see what the Corporation Commission says.
Thank you for letting us know ahead of time about the possible increase, and thank you for being transparent about everything. It's refreshing for the citizens to know what's going on and what to expect.
Any other questions there?
But you got to meet with them, say, it's your move.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Phil.
Thanks, Phil. I want to take a quick minute, board, and introduce you to Hallie Monson. She's our newest employee. She is our city grant writer. We're really excited. You got to come on up. They might want to talk to you. But this is Hallie. We're really excited, and she's been with us since this is her 2nd week, and doing really good things and researching and getting in on grants, and hopefully she's not being flooded with them yet, but I'm excited to have her on board. But again, I wanted to introduce you to the board. If you have any questions, or if not, Hallie, welcome to the family.
Welcome to the city.
Welcome to the city.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. I'm very happy to be here. Happy to
No
join the
idea
team.
I was doing this. I had her called up.
No,
Surprise.
what shade of red am I?
You match your blouse very well.
Oh, wonderful. I'm glad I'm color coordinated. Well, thank you all. It's
Hal.
nice to meet you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And before we go into presentations, just want to give you a couple quick updates. Will Tech, I talked to them yesterday. Will Tech, after our meeting, hopefully will come in and get started on our updates. I think they're going to work through the weekend, and hopefully we'll be ready for our meeting on Tuesday. No promises, but we're going to try to get it done this week. The other thing is JBU. I've talked to a couple board members that had visited with me this week. JBU reached out to me yesterday, and I think it's very important. The Simon Sager home that is on JBU property, they want to gift that to the city. So I will be looking, and talking and discussing board members if you have ideas, if you want that done. I think it's a very important part of our history. And, but again, a location, we would have to move it to the location. They're not expecting, they're going to gift, but again, we would have to pay for any movement of the cabin or house to a location. So just start thinking about that if you have some ideas where you think it would be located, and we can vote on that and as we move forward. But I would love to see it at a city park or somewhere like that, and had a couple different ideas.
What is their reason?
They really didn't say. That right now it's being stored, and they just called me yesterday morning, and it was the first I had talked to them, and just decided that it would be a better location with the city, and they wanted to gift it to us. So I received an email from them yesterday.
It used to be a tourist attraction out there, and they've not used it for that for some time. This has been talked about for 25, 30 years, I know, of if the city could use it as a tourist attraction in the historic district. The parking area behind the gray building, which is now paved, before it was paved, when it was still dirt, at one time had been talked about moving the cabin there because it would be a natural setting with it still being dirt. And there's a massive tree there that would shade it.
Where was that?
But that was the parking lot that's right behind the gray building, kind of across
It's by
from
the museum.
Yeah, it's
which
right
is-
next to the museum, which is perfect, really, yeah. But it's paved now. Back then, it was
Oh,
dirt. So
with
I
the
don't know if
dirt
it'd
thing.
still be appropriate to be on a pavement, because of course Simon didn't have pavement back then. But it's like, hey, back then, that's where it was thinking. So there may be another place that's got grass that would be more appropriate. I had even wondered about the place where Parks and Rec used to be next to Fire Station 2, but I don't know if that's big enough. Didn't that building get torn down? That old, I think, didn't that?
The old little
that-
ladies'
Yeah.
The old
lounge.
ladies'
By
lounge.
Fire
Old
Station.
ladies'
too.
Didn't that get torn down? That's where Parks was for a while.
Yeah.
I think
But
it
I mean,
is.
where that was could.
I don't know if it's big enough, though.
There may not be enough land room there, but you want it to be where,
In the historical overlay.
yeah, that people can actually visit it when they come down to see Sager Creek, et cetera.
But put it in the historical
And
area.
I didn't mean
some.
it was for old ladies. I meant
No.
it was an old building.
It was an old building, and it was one time called the Ladies' Lounge back in the 40s and 50s.
Well, it sounds like you guys are excited about it. So as we move forward, I will keep you updated as I'm working with JBU. We'll start getting some prices on what it would cost to move the building, and we'd have to do a budget amendment to do that. So I will keep you up to date. And if you want to email me or give me a call on ideas where you'd like to see that, or if you're
Has
for
it been moved before?
Yes,
I thought so.
long ago, yeah. Yeah, before it got,
moved it to where it is.
Do we know where the
Right.
original
And it
location
hasn't
is,
been
was?
an extremely.
I'm sorry.
Where was the original location of the cabin?
Ooh, someone would
I
have
know
to know
that.
more history about it than me. We can do some checking on that. I know one of the issues moving it has a very large stone fireplace. So to get everything moved to make sure it stays intact, we'll just have to start getting some companies to look at it to see what it would cost.
Don Warden is a resource of history, and he may know where it used to be, and he may know even what the interior used to look like in terms of furnishings. That if I mean, you could give it to the museum as a project and say,
Yeah.
Once we get it to a location, they could almost take it over in terms of keeping it up and then maybe furnishing it and like, what do? You put a little rope across the doorway where nobody can actually go in, but they could see what it used to look like. So,
Yeah, where I'm from, we used to have Elvis, Elvis
Yeah.
Presley's house, and they kind of have it roped off. You could at least look in and different things like that. But it's a rich part of our history. I think
Yeah.
it's very important that we try to maintain it and keep it.
Wikipedia says
at Silver Dollar City.
it was originally located downtown near the present-day city park.
I thought it used to be down here, and that's why several years ago they had talked about bringing it back down.
This is Wikipedia. It just says present-day city park, so Benton or right down here, I guess.
Well, the Benton Park wasn't there. It would have been
It would have
Twin
been right down here.
Springs
Would have been by Sager
or
Creek.
Yeah.
the city park where the community building is, one or the other. Yeah.
Excellent. Any other questions there? But I will get the information. Like I said, I just got this call yesterday. I've been able to talk to a couple board members that have come by to see me, but I wanted to share it with everyone to make sure we're all on board, and we'll find a location for it, and I'll find out what the funding and what everything will cost.
Put it out at the golf course. No, I'm teasing. I'm joking.
I actually thought of that because there's a little, I think Travis gave me a little history of Simon Sager in the creek bank there, but then I worried
that was the water source. Yep.
Right, with the water coming in and flooding, I wouldn't want to do anything to
Make it a hazard.
put it up on stilts.
Don't hit your golf ball into the cabin.
The last thing I have, I just wanted to really thank staff for Halloween yesterday. We had a lot of kids come through, and it was really neat to see all the different costumes. Thank you for staff for dressing up, and I found out we had a haunted hallway at community development. That was a lot of fun for the kids. And but again, it was a great event. Thank you. The other thing, we had the ACMA conference last week. I was told by several members that it was the best conference they'd ever been to. So thank you to our community and downtown and different places that all came together to put that together. Special thanks to Barbara Rivera, who really took the reins on this with staff, and they did an absolutely great job with that. So I just want to thank them. We'll talk a little bit about that next Tuesday, but again, she did an outstanding job. I couldn't thank her enough. I can't take any credit. So anyway, we'll move on. Steve's going to do a presentation today. Is there any other questions you have for me before we move on? Anything that we can talk about? We're good. Steve's going to come up. We're going to talk about our Master Street Plan. If we have time, then we have a couple other things we could discuss.
And Madam Mayor, I am going to have to scoot out of here right around 4. So if I'm leaving, it's not because I was bored, Steve. I'll watch it later.
You offended.
Hey, this is the condensed version, so it's the not to bore you version.
Thank you, Mindy.
Okay, Steve Gorzek, Public Works Director. Before I get started, I want to make sure, since we pushed this off a couple times, does everybody have the staff report?
I don't think
Was
so.
it emailed to
Okay.
us?
I don't.
I don't think there was a recent one sent. There was one sent, maybe the last one or one before. Okay, well, it's the only difference will be that what was in the staff report had all the details. What I'm going to give you is just basically the list in this presentation. And if there's any questions about details, I've got my copy here. So, okay, so here we go. There's a list of the, well, I don't know how many's on this list, to be honest with you. Well, yes, I do. I have it numbered right here. It's on my report. I have 14 major projects and then 16, I believe, 16 that we would consider doing in-house. But to start out with, this is a culmination of two different reports, if you will. One is the street maintenance repair and sidewalk master plan, something along those lines. It's like this long. I should have I should have just made it initials or something like the federal government does, but I didn't. So it had, one of them is a list of street projects that when we created this plan in 2016, we would update streets that we were going to repair every 3 years. And the next revision on the plan will be next year in 2024. That'll have the next three, well, it'll have 24, 25, and 26 on that plan. The ones I'm going to show you are from 2016 until now. And then the other one is what I used to call the bond project list. And this is a list of street projects that were going to be very expensive, and we would have to find a way to fund these. So I've incorporated them all together. But in the staff report, you had it was all listed. It was all in numeric order. Don't pay attention to the numeric order. I just wanted to be able to do like I did and say, oh, there's 14 majors and 16 minor projects. We can flip-flop these any way you want. It's in no particular order that we're going to do it from number 1 to number 16. So, but here's the list. And now that I said that, the first two we are doing something with. Sager Creek Drive is the one that goes from Hyco over to Lincoln. It's on the south side of all the bird streets that I call the bird streets. And that one is actually, wasn't there, Kevin, a pre-construction meeting today? Because it's getting ready to start construction. We already have the contractor picked and everything.
Yes, that's correct. That was approved at the last board meeting, I believe, and then they anticipate starting Friday or Monday.
Right. Yeah.
So will that one be regular pavement and all those concrete streets will just kind of butt into the pavement? Because they're all concrete streets now, right?
Yeah, and it's all going to asphalt, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, we're not going to stick with concrete?
Yeah, it's all crumbling concrete.
Yeah,
so hopefully
darn.
the crumbles won't get onto the nice asphalt.
Didn't you guys say that you would asphalt the entry from Sager Creek onto the Bird Street, just a few feet
Yes.
into the what is it, 2 or it's 4 streets?
About
4
four
streets,
birds.
yeah. Yeah, the approaches into those streets will be paved.
You're kind of prepping it for them to be redone, but you're
Correct.
at least putting a phasing into it, I think is what we were told.
Right. So, yeah, that one was approved. Sager Creek Drive was approved by the board on the 3rd of October. The next one, Kenwood from Highway 16 to Bruce Rutherford, that one we've talked about for a while, but Garver Engineering is doing the design on that as we speak. There's a grant that was going to cover part of the design, and we have funds in 2024's budget to cover what the grant won't cover. So the engineering is currently underway on this particular stretch of street, and that's because of all the subdivisions that went in. The street needs to be widened and various other things. In fact, it's going to get 10-foot side path, but no curb and gutter. And it'll go to a width of 26 feet.
Steve,
Mm-hmm.
did we get everything cleared up with the county as far as who has what part of the road and whatnot?
Sorry, I keep looking over at you, Kevin, but I'm assuming so because we're doing the design, but I don't know who's paying
The
for what.
question is,
Yeah, but who's paying for what?
As of right now, with the design, the city is funding that, and then with construction, we would seek to partner with the county. Depending on the school district owns property out at the very end of these improvements, and so depending on when they plan to come through, we may need to execute construction on this without the county's help, but
Okay.
we would seek county involvement.
okay, thank you.
So basically, it's in limbo. We'll come to some kind of arrangement eventually. Next one's Country Club from Brashears to the city limits. And that would be a proposed widening with curb and gutter and sidewalk, but that's going to take it from the north coming south, Mission Hills subdivision, then you got Endura Park, then the substation, the electric substation on Country Club, and then there'll be another development that's going in that has what I call row homes. There's a bunch of houses in that area. Then on the corner of Brashears and Country Club will be the warehouses, the vet warehouses. So that street would be widened largely because the traffic volume will pick up. The next one, Tahlequah from Hyco to Country Club. I am looking forward to that one, and I don't know when we'll do that, but the cost is almost $2.7 million, at least when this was first written, which was, well, when this was first put together. So chances are this is probably bumping $4 million by now. But this would have curb and gutter and a side path, but the thing that I'm looking forward to is this would also realign that intersection. If you're coming up in Tahlequah from here and you're heading toward Hyco, then you are sitting here and the next stretch of Tahlequah is right here. So you got to jump onto Hyco and jump right back off. The idea is to turn that intersection so Tahlequah will be pretty much a straight shot, or at least on an angle, and then turn. So you won't be interfering with traffic on Hyco except for just waiting for traffic on Hyco to go by. Kenwood from Mount Olive to Lincoln. This one we may not go all the way to Lincoln, because when you get on the other side of the railroad tracks on Kenwood, where Siloam Collision is, Siloam Collision's on the west side of the tracks, and then on the east side of the tracks, that's all concrete pavement all the way to Lincoln, and it's still in pretty decent shape. But from Kenwood, from Mount Olive to Washington is in terrible shape. It's potholes, it's very bumpy, you can't drive very fast on it. So improving that, plus from Washington to the railroad tracks, would be a major improvement. The next one is Highway 16 from Kenwood to 412. I almost took this one off the screen, or off the list, strictly because I think this is going to be an RDOT project. I mean, it's a state highway already, but the reason for talking about any improvements was because it's in the city limits. But if you think about it, 412 is in the city limits too, so it'll probably wind up just disappearing. Or if it ever resurfaces, it'll be some kind of collaborative effort between the state and the city. I mean, it's a busy intersection, there's no doubt about that. Okay, Airport Road, it's in two phases, and that was broken up largely because it's such a long stretch. If you go from 412 to the city limits north, you're eating up about 6,800 feet, so mile and a quarter. It's a pretty long run. So it was broken up into two phases because the estimated contractor cost for phase one would be almost 1.4 million, and then phase two would be just over $1 million, almost 1.1 million. And that, again, that cost may have gone up based on the material costs going up so much.
Is the county gonna help?
That's one of those, like we were just talking about on, which one was it?
Or it's probably Shin Spring.
Oh, Kenwood from 16 to Bruce Rutherford, part of that's county too. Airport Road is in the city limits it's all city limits until you get just past, what is that one? Stonecrest, yes, thank you. Once you get past Stonecrest, then half of it's county, half of it's city, the east side being county, west side city. And then you get down to the city limits, and after that, it's all county. So yeah, we would have to cost share with the county on that. And when we get closer to trying to figure out when we're going to be doing this and being able to fit it in our budget, I will approach the county before we even put it in the budget, because if we budget for it, then they're also going to have to budget as well, and see if that's what they want to do. If not, then we will push it off until they can come up with their share of the money.
You have any kind of timeline?
Not right now. I have a street, I call it a street matrix. It's a spreadsheet that we have that we take 3 years worth of street projects and then it goes into that master plan. And Airport Road, I don't even think is on that list. Not that we can't add it, but because we're going to get into so much money in '24 with the bird streets, because we plan on doing all those since Sager Creek Drive's getting done, it may be 25 or 26. Any more on Airport Road?
Yeah, on that, we're also looking at possibly reevaluation and looking into annexation, and that's going to be involved with that area.
True. And
All that in consideration as well. And
if it gets annexed, it'll probably all be all city street then. So then we wouldn't have to worry about the negotiating, I guess. I guess that's the good side of it.
Steve, I see several projects you bring up because of the need for widening. I still don't see Don Hill, which is much too narrow and is crumbling on the sides. It is used a lot more than people realize, and Oak Crest is the worst city street in our city besides Airport Road.
I don't disagree with you. In fact, do you have the list there?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay,
No.
because I'm going to get to Don Hill shortly.
I just know that a lot of people, to avoid Sherry Whitlock, now use that route of Don Hill and Oak Crest.
Yep.
And come back around either on Hyco or go north down that, is it Davidson Road, the county road, the dirt road that?
Yeah.
Yeah, considering them, I totally get the need for straightening out the I call it the worm or the zigzag at Simmons on the Hyco, but I don't know why we would go all the way to Country Club. I think all the way to Lincoln, yes, definitely, but all the way to Country Club, I'm not sure that it has enough traffic to warrant that. And then you mentioned the Country Club from Brashears to city limits because of the additional neighborhoods needs widening. But there's streets like Airport and Oak Crest that are just undrivable and are ruining people's cars. And to me, they should get priority over something that is fairly new. The new neighborhoods are coming in, and therefore Country Club needs widen. I just think there's an awful lot of streets that we've been promising because they are unfixable. They need completely overlaid, start from scratch, and the desire for widening because of new growth is one thing, but to fix a street that is causing cars to bottom out and hurting their tires, those to me should be our number one goal, is that when we've been getting enough gripes about these and warranted, very warranted, then we should be looking at them first.
Okay, well, and
Did you say you had like 16 streets? You've only shown us about 6 so far, right?
right, yeah, I'll be getting to Don Hill, but again,
Well,
put it where you'd like.
There's 10. There's
Right.
10 so far. We've listed 10 so far, or
Okay,
not
s-
9.
Okay.
Yeah, so
But you,
if
yeah.
we need to move that, then that's great. It's not, it doesn't have to
Well,
be number whatever.
I'm just thinking there may be some streets that we have concerns about that are on your list. We just haven't seen them yet.
Oh, okay, yeah. And we'll be getting to those here shortly. Well, there's one right there. Quarter Road from Holly to Elm. That would be basically in front of the electric department, and then where Quarter Road kind of makes a little jog again, and you go a little bit to the north and then get back on it. That would be redone. I do know between Carl and Elm, that stretch of Quarter Road's really narrow, and I've also noticed that's one of the ways I'll go to the water plant to avoid going down 412, but apparently a lot of people do the same thing, because I encounter a lot of traffic on that stretch. Next one's Don Hill Road, Highway 43 to Oak Crest. So that's the one you were talking about, Director Allen, that we're looking at that one.
It's just really dangerous now because it's not wide enough. And it's built kind of like this, where it slopes off, and the crumbling on the side up and down it is really creating, if you meet somebody, you could very well lose the right side of your car.
Right, and that would get curb and gutter and a side path.
It is one that a lot of bikers go on. So that side path will be nice.
And, when I was talking about development over on Country Club, there's also a lot of development happening along Don Hill Road. There's one on the, what would that be, the east side, and then Heritage Ranch is eventually going to have an entrance off of Don Hill Road and go through that subdivision.
Steve, what do you think the estimated cost on Don Hill and Oak Crest? Do you even have any numbers yet?
Well, at the time this was put together, it was just under 1.5 million. So, I mean, again, if the board prefers, we can start looking at that sooner than later and start getting some cost estimates and things like that, and see if we can fit it in our budget. The next one is, again, it's on the list. I would suggest it be near the bottom of the list, but that's Highway 59 from 412 to Kenwood. Now, Chris, are you in the booth there? Yeah. Did you put Google Maps on here? And I might be able to describe it well enough to give you a visual, but that's essentially Arkansas 59 and 412, okay, where Jiffy Trip is on the corner. This would be taking 59 south all the way down to Kenwood. So since Kenwood is going to be improved from Bruce Rutherford Road back to 16, we would bring 59 down to Kenwood and join up there. The thing I'm trying to get my head around is it will most likely be a city street, although it would be presumed to be a state highway since 59 is a state highway. But if you think about it, and that's why the map here, if you go on 59 and go to Highway 412, then you take 412 to Lincoln, that's Highway 264. But once you're on the south side of 412, that's 59 again.
Very confusing. I live
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm talking about.
So are you saying a completely new street?
Yeah, this would be a new street, and again, it would be way into the.
Where Jetstream is?
No, it would be.
Where are you talking about?
Yeah, let me bring it up here on the map.
You know where Jiffy Trip is, the new one? Atwoods?
It would be right.
Oh, right there at
Oh,
the corner.
going
with
straight
the
south.
lights.
59 going, okay.
Yeah, right there.
59 headed to Gentry. Okay.
Yeah, this would take you south down to Kenwood, right in here.
Okay, so you're headed from 59 west to Kenwood Street.
Going south.
Yeah, heading straight south.
No street there right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've got the.
That's what that's having trouble.
Fine right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. If you were rather than having to turn left or right on 412, you just keep going straight south.
Oh my gosh.
And then Kenwood is right there.
Right there.
That would be a massive undertaking.
Yes, that's why I say it.
But haven't we looked at that for quite some time? I mean, we've talked about that before.
We have, and largely because the school has land out there.
Yep.
So if that became a reality,
That north-south street, right at that intersection with Kenwood. Yeah, that
that's
one.
Bruce Rutherford.
No.
Oh.
There's
No,
a Timothy
but the
right
south,
there.
the one going
Timothy.
up and down, south right there.
That's Kenwood again.
Oh, that's Kenwood?
Yeah.
Turns right,
Oh, it
goes south.
turns. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it goes through here like that.
Our streets are confusing.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so now I'm gonna leave that up.
Well, yeah, the way it is now, they either have to go out to 16 or they go down to the end, out at the end of the city limits.
Right.
Can I ask you a question about that area?
Sure.
I know, like I said, I know that we've talked about it before. Back whenever I was on the board, we talked about it. So at that time, there was nothing between Kenwood and 412, where 59 comes out. That there was land open there.
Yeah.
Is there something built there now so that we would have a problem getting easements for this road? Is it still undeveloped all the way through there?
For the most part, there's right here, yeah, you got TJ's Pizza.
Right.
But if you follow my cursor here, you got the property line over here. So this section of land is right in line with 59. So we could follow that all the way down, and there's still nothing there until you get to Kenwood. So right now it's still available, if you will.
And the reason I'm asking you that is, do we need to consider
Purchasing right away.
at what the right-of-way would cost for us to purchase?
Yeah.
I mean, this board would have to look at that, they'd have to know the cost, they would have to know all of that, but I mean, is that something that we need to consider today rather than whenever we get ready to, because I know, you know, with all the construction that we've got going on, you know, who knows, 5 years from now or even 10, what's going to be there? And if we're looking for a right-of-way for a street, you can't move buildings.
There'll be neighborhoods if we don't get it.
Exactly.
Well-
There will be neighborhoods. So, I mean, I'm just throwing that out there as food for thought.
No, that's
If
a good
we
idea.
need
What's
to-
on the north side of Kenwood, just west of where you're talking about, that wasn't there 5 years ago.
Absolutely.
Madam
So
Mayor?
you know, yes.
All those neighborhoods, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Kevin?
Yes, so to speak to that a little bit, this stretch of road is on our master street plan. So as that area develops, we are getting right of way. The Grandview subdivision and anything that comes in kind of in between these two streets would dedicate right of way. So we would need to assume money for the purchase if any of that area hadn't developed by the time that we come through with this. But as it develops, we are getting right of way.
Perfect. Thank you.
So then we do have right of way just south of where 59 and 412 is now.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
That came through before
Okay.
we started requiring that. But Grandview Estates, that subdivision on Kenwood, has dedicated
Yeah.
their half of the right of way
Yeah,
along
down-
their eastbound.
Yeah, right down in here.
Correct.
Yeah, and which is good, but along 412, we might want to look at right away, correct? Because buy it, I mean, if we can get it now, rather than having to pay for by the square foot, we might be money ahead. So we can look into that. Okay. Again, Brashears, but this is the dirt road, and right now it's not in the city limits, so when it is, we might entertain this. It would connect Hico to Lincoln. Right now, there are some people who will take the dirt road, but a lot will go around. And if you want to get to, obviously, if you want to get to Lincoln from Hico, you got to go back to to Sherry Willock and around that way. Quarter Road from Waukesha to Highway 16. I believe that's the connector. All right, no, one over here. Zoom out. There we go. I'm lost.
I didn't even know you were thinking about that, but when you said 59 earlier, that's what I thought you were talking is
Right here.
is straight through to 16 from, basically from Highway 59 south to 16.
Right. So, Quarter Road from Waukesha to 16 would be where my cursor is. There's currently nothing there. And we've got the subdivision going in. I think, yeah, subdivision did put in a little piece of street off of 16. So it would be taking it from there all the way back so that you'd be able to access if you came off of 59, you go down Quarter Road, you can go all the way to 16.
So there's nothing there. I mean, there is Waukesha Road, but there's nothing just south of the dirt work there.
Right. And then Oak Crest, from Don Hill Road to Hico's on there. That was on 24's list, but 24 got really expensive really fast. With doing the bird streets and it being estimated at close to $2 million, you know, we can only get so much done. So Oak Crest wound up getting pushed back, but
Haven't we told citizens, though, that we were going to do Oak Crest?
Yes.
yeah, and we did say it was going to be in 24 also. And it was on the budget until these others wound up kind of taking, not precedent, but we just didn't have the money to do both. This one would, and it depends on, again, we talked about this a while back, whether we do curb and gutter and sidewalk, or if we just repair the bad spot of Oak Crest, which is in front of Oak Crest subdivision from Hico to the west, and then mill and overlay the rest. If we do that, we're looking at probably $800,000. If we do curb and gutter, side path or sidewalk, and well, curb and gutter alone would be expensive, but we would be well over $1 million if we if we do that. Plus, we would most likely contract it out. So, in that case, we'd be probably $1.5 million to $2 million. So it's one of those things we'll have to consider.
We're better off not doing you're saying the curb and gutter is what's going to be expensive.
And the sidewalk, I mean, side path, because it would be, I mean, in thinking about it, it makes more, it makes sense to do that because there is a sidewalk on Hico heading north to Oak Crest, and it's on the west side of the street. So if a side path went down Oak Crest, there's also a sidewalk on Don Hill. So now you've just made a big loop around. So, you know, it would make more sense, I think, to go ahead and do the side path and curb and gutter. But it's just a matter of, again, it's one of those we're going to have to look at sooner than later because we have been telling people we're going to do it. So
I don't remember seeing all the 4 bird streets on the list in the past. I don't know how they leapfrogged all these other streets we've talked to people about because the bird streets, as bad as they are, and I've driven them, there's only a limited number of people who use the bird streets, whereas Don Hill and Oak Crest and some of these others like Airport are used as thoroughfares for many, many other people besides residents up and down them, whereas the 4 bird streets are mainly the residents. So
yeah.
I'm just saying we've not made promises on the bird streets years ago as we did on some of these other main thoroughfares. And so I don't know how the bird streets jumped ahead of these others, but $2 million, that's a lot of money.
yeah, well,
I mean, we have talked for many, many years of Sager Creek Drive,
yes.
but never did we partner them with the bird streets and say we are doing both for.
Well, and I'll agree with you. I mean, my stance when we started putting all these streets together initially was I want to try to stay out of residential areas because once we get in, we'll never get out. But when Sager Creek Drive is being put in, it's going to be really hard to talk to all the residents who are going to say, you did this street right to the south of us just to tease us because you're not going to do the rest of it. So I thought, well, since we're doing that, we just do that. The bird streets all the way back up to Sherry Whitlock, and that whole area is done. And then we can.
You
then we can
saying
move.
the 4 bird streets are $2 million, or the bird streets and Sager Creek are $2 million?
Now the bird streets by themselves are almost $2 million. That's because it'll have to be a complete rebuild. We would have to tear out the concrete and then redo the subgrade and everything to be able to get it ready for asphalt. And then Oak Crest would be about the same if we contract it and put in the sidewalk.
I hope we don't ever allow anybody putting in a neighborhood to put concrete streets ever again.
I think if the subgrade is in good shape, I mean, well, you know, I wasn't here when Main Street was concrete, but you know, we have asphalt over the top of that now, and so is Broadway. But evidently that they held up for a lot of years. But
Well,
I'm
Bellevue
assuming.
Addition is crumbled horribly, and
Yeah.
it's been only recently brought in the city limits. But
That's true.
It's the weather just cracks the concrete.
That's another Bird Streets.
Yeah.
Same thing. All right, so real quick, the residential streets, we've talked about this a few times already, and it was budgeted for 24. Help me, Helena.
Helena. Helena.
Okay.
Well, it's just like the city of West Helena. Yeah.
Okay, Helena from Mount Olive to Britt, and then the next one is basically a continuation. So when you turn off of Mount Olive and you go down Helena, you go to Britt Street, and then you curve around, and Britt goes to Sherry Whitlock. So those two are on this list.
Are you going to widen it as well, because it's such a narrow street?
I agree, it's really narrow, but I don't know how much right of way we have.
That's the problem.
Yeah, and purchasing right of way would get expensive. Not to mention, we may get a decent amount of complaints because now we've taken a lot of front yards out. And I would rather not do curb and gutter on those streets if at all possible, just because storm sewer and again taking up front yards. The ditches work, and if they work, we should leave them if at all possible, rather than trying to get water from point A to point B even faster. Running through a ditch, the grass takes out a lot of silt, cleans the water up, that
I
kind of
don't
thing.
know if it's on your list for sidewalks, but I've griped in the board meetings about Harvard not having sidewalks, and
Yeah.
the road is fine. The street is not bad, but if you put any sidewalk in, you're going to take up people's yards,
Yep.
and those yards just aren't that big.
Very narrow.
Yeah,
That's true.
So the condition is not bad. It just people should not have to walk in the streets for.
And that may, you know, we're big on talking about side paths and things like that, but you know, 6-foot sidewalk may be sufficient.
Oh, you couldn't do a 10-foot side path down Harvard.
No. Well,
They wouldn't have a yard.
you could do two 5-footers, one on each side of the street, but yeah.
Their yard would be concrete.
Okay, so Quarter Road from Lincoln to Waukesha. That's basically the stretch that's still there, but it's by the Simmons Warehouse. It's not in that great a shape. No, especially when you get to the curve.
I was just on it yesterday.
I was just about to say, but does it really get used? Well, obviously.
I'm one person.
Tahlequah from Wright to Carl would just be a mill and overlay, and that takes us just behind you, goes into I can't think of the Don Bunker's apartments and what have you, but it would just improve the street. And then Tulsa from Holly to State Line Road, it's the same way. Tulsa, let's see, Tulsa, Holly, State Line. Yeah, that stretch of street is a shortcut to the casino. And I have one of the staff in streets lives on that street, and he comments that there's just constant traffic. So.
They complain about the speed too, because
Oh, yeah.
a lot of calls
Yep.
on that. Is there anything in the street design that can help with that?
Well, that's the thing. If we redo the street and it's nice and slick and smooth, and
Attract
it's
even
going to go even
more.
faster,
Go
you know.
faster.
Yeah, and it
Well,
gets a
and
lot
if-
of traffic. I used to live on that street, and they speed down it.
Yeah.
And if we're going to help get customers to the casino, they ought to help pay for the Tulsa street, right?
That's
Our clinic was at the end of that street.
Yeah, that's right.
And
And-
there was a lot of traffic.
And a lot of them that are coming from the casino don't know that they're going down it anyway.
They took out the big dip in there.
Steve, for time's sake, we're starting to run long. Can you just go through the list pretty quickly where the directors can know, hey, this is what's on our list, and then if we need to add anything, and we can have a little discussion.
Yeah, sorry about that. I have a clock right here on this tablet, and I wasn't paying attention. I have Ravenwood, a couple of them, and then Glenwood Place is just right up the street. There's it's not a very long section. It's just, in fact, we even have an address from Mount Olive to 302 Glenwood. That stretch right there is just terrible, but the rest of it's not in bad shape. And then Dogwood from Tulsa to Highway 412, which is over by Harbor Freight. And then Jefferson from Dogwood to Carl by the school. Again, Ravenwood, Pickwick Terrace. A lot of Ravenwood is in very sorry shape. It's cracked really bad. And this is an example of that. And then Hill Street from Tahlequah to Helena. That would, if we do Helena from Mount Olive to Britt and then Britt around, this would connect those, be like a 3 streets connecting. And then I think, no, there's still more. Carl Street from Tulsa to 412. That's traveled a lot, because that's basically where the post office is. Highway 59, no, that's a repeat. Yeah, that's a repeat. Same with Holly. And Heartland Drive over by Fire Station 1.
Can you send us this list?
Sure. And then lastly, another Ravenwood.
What was Heartland Drive? It was
Heartland from Lincoln to Sherry Whitlock runs just next to Fire Station 1.
Since we're talking about streets, can I ask you something, Steve?
Sure.
They're working on Lake Francis Road, and so I had a citizen ask me, and maybe some of you guys might know, when they put Lake Francis in, and you go out and you look at the arch to Lake Francis, it's spelled with an E, and we spell it with an I. Have you ever noticed?
It is supposed to be an E.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
So
Francis is
why
a
do we
real
have our
person.
signs wrong?
Because whoever ordered
I was
the
asked
signs
that, and I'm
didn't-
like, well, I don't
Hey,
know.
it's-
If it's a namesake and we spelled all our signs wrong, why don't we correct our signs? I'm like, well, I don't know.
Who ordered those signs?
They
I think
spelled it
it's-
wrong since I was a kid.
Francis is
Yeah.
a man's name with an I and
I
an
had,
E.
yeah, I had
And
a
it's supposed to be with an E.
feeling it'd been that way for a while, but that's Helena and Helena.
It's,
I mean, it was
it's
that
Judge
way when I
Stephen
was a
Thomas's
kid and
mom.
she was still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should we not look at maybe correcting that? Especially we're taking signs down to do construction on that
Yeah.
road. Why
Yeah.
not put up right ones?
Yeah, we need to get it.
No, we
right.
can
Funds.
definitely look into that.
I never.
Because I don't think it's going
It
to cause
is,
any
in
issues.
fact, her namesake.
It is.
yeah.
Oh, it
It
wouldn't
is.
be.
sure
it
it
wouldn't be
is.
Lake Francis if it wasn't her name. So,
Right.
yeah.
'Cause
I see staff taking notes, so we'll make sure we take care of that.
You know, I've lived here my whole life. I've never caught that it was misspelled.
Oh, I
Paid
did. My
attention
mom
to it.
pointed it out when I was
Have
a
you,
kid.
Judy?
Citizen
Thought-
asked me, and I'm like,
Thought about it.
Never even thought about it.
it didn't come across to me.
And I knew Lake Francis was spelled with an E, but I never caught that the street sign was wrong.
That's what it was, so that's what
the arch says E.
The arch is right,
It
But
has
the
the E,
signs say
yeah.
I.
right, but our
Oh,
street
okay.
signs say I, which,
I always look at
Maybe
the-
that's because city and county, you know. I don't know.
no.
If I could just add something to that conversation, some of those are built into the Benton County 911 system, so
I was gonna
it would
ask
involve
that.
more than just a sign change. There's stuff in the 911 mapping system and the state GIS office that we would have to address too, so.
I
I'd
figured
like
we'd
to know
have
what
to
the
check into
original
it.
ordinance says, or whatever it is that creates the signs, because then we should follow what the original.
Well, the
I think we
records
have to do
keeper, we
what-
should have the clerk go research it.
Kevin, you wrote that down, didn't you?
I think it's important, though, that we
It's
do what
noted.
911 has it recorded as, so they know where they're going.
Yeah, but it'd be easy to change, I mean.
Still pronounced the same.
But the
Yeah, but I mean, if it was my namesake, it was my family, it would
Yeah.
bother me if they contributed so much to the community.
But I'm not so sure we had an incident with the 911 board in the past, and their pretty hard to deal with. And I see shaking of heads out there. It's not that it can't be done, but it's a process. I'm just
It's
putting
like,
that out there.
oh yeah, that's like why mailboxes are on certain sides of the street. Yeah.
But it should match whatever the ordinance or resolution is, because that's what they voted on.
That's why I pointed out
Steve.
earlier the Sherry Whitlock Parkway, because by using the word parkway, I know what end of Sherry Whitlock and past Mount Olivet's drive. So, yeah. But if you're
Right.
saying Lake Francis, it doesn't sound any different, but it's what will show up in writing. Yep.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Steve, thank you very much. And board, please keep in mind, if you, and Miss Barbara will get with Steve and I'll have you a list out hopefully tomorrow. And that way, if you guys need any, you see something that needs to be added, and again, these aren't in order, this is, as we have priorities or the board's pleasure, if you need something, and, we will work with you to do that.
If I could, just one quick question, because we talked about the intersection of 412 and 16. Have we heard from RDOT? Are they going to help us, or are they still deciding what they're going to do with that intersection?
Staff has no update for
Okay,
that intersection.
that's what I figured.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So far, we've heard updates from streets, sidewalks, and drainage. Next meeting, Department Head of the Public Service Division, Jason, he'll be doing an update on sanitation and public services. We'll also be talking about our Baylor. One of the other things I would like the board to start working on or how you want to do goals going forward. I want to find some time next meeting to talk about goals. I know we've set 3-year goals, 4-year goals, 5-year goals, but what happens, what I'm seeing as board members go off and new board members come on, those goals kind of change, and it's kind of confusing to staff on what is a priority, because I know I still have a couple staff members that are working on goals from 3 and 4 years ago that were long-range goals. So I need to make sure that those are still priorities from this board going forward. So I'd like you to start thinking how you want staff to address that. Do we want to do them yearly? Do we want to do 2-year goals? Because we have the rest of this year and next year, and then we will have possibly new board members coming on. Or again, there could be change, so those goals can change. So we just that goalpost moves sometimes. It will help us as we go forward if we can discuss that next time. But I will try to put some time aside to discuss.
I appreciate you bringing that up. That was one of the things I've noticed. I came on in 21 and we were still dealing with board goals from 2018, 2019. And part of the problem I saw was that you had 5 or 6 pages and probably 3/4 of them. I mean, each board goal was assigned by Philip to a department head, and 3/4 of them would be community development, and that's just too many for one person to be in charge of. So it needs to be spread out.
Right.
To,
Yes, sir.
To be able to really concentrate.
And you got to have long-range goals, such as
Yeah,
the Park
yeah.
and Rec Center. We know that is now that I'm working with Park and Rec, in that isn't something that can get done in a year. That's a process that takes 3 or 4 years.
You need a long list, a long-term and a
that
short-term.
long term of those goals, and it, in my opinion, is much needed. But that is a process, and the more I'm in it, it's
Are you
it's definitely a process.
anticipating a goal-setting meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know when?
I would like to probably do it in one of the first meetings in December. Next meeting, or that's something we can discuss, because again, it's if we have a pre-agenda meeting, we can do nothing but that meeting, of course, do the agenda, then talk about goals and what the what the goals are of the board. If you want to start emailing me boards or goals, I can start putting that together. We just need to know how you want those done moving forward. We can
Probably us emailing you in the next few months would be the best. The last board goal meeting we had was April of 22.
Yes, ma'am.
So-
And when I say that, it's more of a discussion than actually setting goals, but we need to find out exactly how this board wants them done.
It's an important meeting, and I'd hate for any board member to miss it because of holidays. That's my concern with.
That is
December is
true.
such a busy
Director
month.
Smiley kind of gave me that look, and I'm like, that might not be.
No,
a good
December's
December is
a
not a
tough
good month for me,
No.
and for a
Yeah.
lot of people, it's just so busy and so hectic. I think that's not the best choice.
Yes, ma'am. And to be honest with you, right now is probably not a good time for staff because we have so many different projects going on. So let's look at the first of the year. But I do want to talk about it soon just to see how you guys want this going forward. And then maybe we'll talk about setting goals.
I
Is
think
it possible to see the list that we prepared for 23 and 24 and what we've accomplished and what is still left?
Yes, ma'am.
a great idea.
And that would be a part of our meeting.
But if you can send that out to us, that list, and maybe even mark which ones have been done, but then also encourage us to informally email you individually what we would like to add or do whatever, so that when we have our meeting in January, you'll at least have some idea.
Yes. And as we go forward, so be prepared for discussion next meeting or the meeting after, just on how we want to do goals going forward. And then after the first of the year, we will sit down and
But what
start
Carol
setting
asked
goals.
for will give us an idea of what we previously talked about and what we still want. I mean, many times just going over that will get you to thinking about possibly a new goal.
Even
And
if
we'll
we
try
saw
to
that
have
on a
that.
quarterly
Yeah,
basis.
yeah. Oh,
I'll
yeah.
have-
No, we should be getting an update, yeah.
I'll have Barbara try to put that together this week and get it out to you the end of the week sometime, if not this week, early next week.
April of '22 was, that, we should have,
That was the last.
yeah, we should have done it, at least an update.
We usually did it in the early.
Pardon me.
Okay. One of the last things I want to talk to you also, the golf course. If you get a chance, and with the weather a little warmer than it was the last couple of days, if you get a chance, I know Director Wiles went with us the other day. We had a meeting with at the golf course, and he just happened to hear the conversation and called me and said, "Hey, you mind if I go with you?" I would like each one of you to get on a golf cart with me or staff and see what we're doing. We're making great strides, but there are some problems out there. Phil, do you know if you got out there? You can give me a nod about the electrical panels. Thank you. One of the issues that we saw with electrical panels when we were out there at the well house, there were electrical panels out there with no doors. There was kind of nests made in the panels, and there was a big fan about 2 inches from the panel, keeping air on it to keep it from snapping.
Oh my gosh.
So to me, it was definitely a safety hazard. So we've been out there. There's some the bathrooms out there aren't working. There's holes in the roof. So there's things that I'd like you to see that we need to fix. At the end of the month, I've worked with the police department, and we're going to have the work program from Benton County come out for 5 days straight. We will start taking down some of the sheds. They'll work with Brian and his crew at Maxim Golf to make sure we're cleaning up. Jason will have some dumpsters go out there because there's just things laying around that just old tarps and things like
Can we get a list of the
that.
critical items that need to be taken care of and how much it costs?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I will keep you up to date. Some of the things that we're doing, we can do in-house because with the work crew coming in 5 days, it'll be at no cost to us, except.
Thank you, that's good. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so we're really trying to stay on there, and a lot of this is going to be Brian's crew. I'm just trying to assist them to get some things done that I see could get someone hurt, such as the electrical panels. One of the things, the money that was approved next year, one of the things I plan on buying is a backup pump. Right now we have a pump, and we have great water source. And Travis, if I kill this, you may have to save me. But when you turn that pump on and when then you turn it off, it about shakes the whole house. And if that pump ever goes out, we could lose a green in a matter of hours. So we need to know, we need to make sure we have a pump. In the future, I see us getting an irrigation system. We're okay for the next 2-3 years by patching and doing the things that we need to do. My understanding was asbestos piping, so we didn't want to touch that, but then I found out recently it's not, so that's really great news. But going forward, if you get time, please, set an hour or two aside, and I'd be glad just to show you around. The greens look amazing compared to what they were a month ago.
You're not gonna make us play, are you? Don't have to swing.
I'm like you. I think you told me today, hey, I shot a 72. Now let's move on to the second hole. That's pretty much me too. So, but I love it. But it is. It's working together. I get a lot of phone calls of excitement from people. Staff's excited. It's a lot added to our plate, but it's definitely needed. I would like to see the golf course, stay here. And so again, but I'll keep the board updated. But if you get a chance and you can go out, if I can't make it, staff be happy to drive around. Just take a look at it. So when we're telling you about it in a meeting, you actually have visual, and you kind of know what we're telling you. The bathroom fixes are pretty easy. Director Carol, that it's like they got skylights. Well, it looks like it's been shot with a shotgun, so you're getting rain inside there. And those are things that we'll just take the skylight out, and Cliff's got a list, and go ahead and shingle that up. We got to get electricity running better out there. The toilets aren't working. So if you're out there with your daughter or your kids, there's really nowhere to go.
There's no bathrooms working?
And not out on the course. Travis, am I correct on that? So those are things that we need to make a priority and get to work. And those are not really expensive. Those are things we can do in-house.
The only ones they got are probably, at the clubhouse?
Correct.
So if you're way off on a hole, and you gotta come all the way back to the clubhouse.
Correct.
Boy.
So those are things that just with us all, right? It was Travis and Jason, myself, and others. We just drove around with Brian Minnick and his staff, or Minnis, and we just took a look. So I know it was very eye-opening for Ken, and he even suggested, a lot of the board, because he didn't understand it until he saw it. So if you get that opportunity, I'd love you, to come out and take a ride with us. So. Any other questions for staff? I know we're starting to run late, but staff's available for any questions or concerns or things you're hearing.
I hadn't been out there in a long time, but as I told you, I have believed 100% whatever Dale Aiken said, because I've known him so long. He's about as honest as there is anybody. And so he was the one saying, oh yeah, you got to trust me. So that's where I should, as you just said, Ken didn't believe, I need to go out and look at it myself as well.
And we can make that, just send me an email, shoot me a call. I'll be happy to meet you out there.
I'm sure.
If you remember, Director, just probably less than 3 years ago, they built that new bridge off Hole 1. You don't want to drive across that when you go up it. I mean, I just don't know if it wasn't built correctly.
That's not that old.
No. So we got underneath it. And
wow,
it looked like they used a railroad tie that was, would you say rotten, Jason? It was rotten, and they're driving equipment across it, and we own that property now. So the safety is a big concern to me. You can actually stand on the bridge, and you can jump up and down.
Yeah, we've always owned it. We've always had,
yes.
There's just no lease on it anymore.
Right, it's completely.
Yeah.
We're liable.
Yes. There you go.
That's the word you're looking for.
There you go. So again, we just want to get out there and make these corrections. Those are some easy fixes. The eyesore, let's throw a coat of paint on those cart sheds. And we're probably going to take half those down. And if we have to put a net up and, throw a coat of green paint on there, those are things that we can do. So that's it. Do you have any questions for staff on any other issues? Staff have anything? Mayor, I turn it back over to you.
All right, then I would say if there are no other questions, our pre-agenda meeting is adjourned. Thank you.